Hello friends, welcome to lecture number 3 of the chapter How Do Organisms Reproduce. In this video, we are going to talk about some important terms related to the human reproductive system. Then we'll discuss in detail about how the human reproductive system, both male and female, work and what are the structures and what are the different roles played by the different parts of these structures. We'll also understand the menstrual cycle in detail, plus we'll understand what is placenta and how does it, what important role does it play when it comes to human reproductive system or pregnancy in humans. So let's start with this lecture. So the first three important terms that you need to know are what are unisexual organisms, what are bisexual organisms, and what is meant by the term puberty. So what are unisexual organisms? Unisexual organisms are those organisms which have only one, means either the male or the female reproductive organs in their body. Means either the organism will be a male or the organism would be a female, just like in case of humans. Plants can also be unisexual and bisexual, right? Then bisexual means organisms which have both the reproductive organs in the same organism. Like they will have both the male and the female reproductive organs in the same body. In case of earthworms, the earthworm has the male and the female reproductive part, both the parts present in the body of the same organism. So in case of plants, as I said, plants can also be unisexual or bisexual. Some examples that you need to know: papaya, it's a unisexual plant. Watermelon, it is also a unisexual plant. Bisexual is hibiscus, then mustard. In these two plants, the same plant, the same flower has both the male and the female parts, both the stamen and the pistil are there. Whereas in papaya and watermelon, either the flower would have a stamen or it would have a pistil, right? So this is what is unisexual and bisexual. Then puberty is a term specifically used for human beings, that is the age at which a child attains sexual maturity, that is around the age of 11 to 13 or 14 years of age, when the production of sex hormones starts in the body. You can start seeing the visible characters associated with males and females. Appearance of facial hair in case of males, then deepening of the voice, change in body structure in case of females, beginning of the menstrual cycle in case of females. These are all changes associated with puberty, right? So these are the few terms that we need to know. Let us now understand the human male reproductive system. The primary reproductive organ in case of human males is the testis. So you can see this round egg-like structure over here. This is actually a pair of testes. That means there are two testes which are placed in a bag-like structure which is known as the scrotum, which lies outside the body cavity. Now there is a reason why the testes need to be placed outside the body cavity. The reason is that the sperm production needs a temperature slightly lower than the normal body temperature. That means it should be around 1 to 2 degrees less than what a normal body temperature is. So when it is placed outside the cavity, it helps in attaining that low body temperature, which is optimum for the production of sperms in case of human beings. Then this structure on the side, this is known as the epididymis. It helps to store the sperms for some time, and then this tube-like structure that you can see over here, this is the vas deferens, which carries the sperms to the outside. So the sperms are released from the testes, stored temporarily in the epididymis, and then through the vas deferens they are carried like this and finally go to the exterior through this organ which is known as the penis. Now on the way there are two glands, the seminal vesicles and the prostate glands, which add a liquid medium to these sperms. This liquid medium helps the sperms to swim fast. Plus, it also provides nourishment to the sperms because the sperms are highly motile. They have a very high energy requirement. So this liquid, which is added by the seminal vesicles and the prostate gland, that helps to provide nourishment as well as adding mobility to the sperm so that they can travel up to the ova and fertilize it. Also, you might notice that this is the urinary bladder, and in case of human males, the urinary bladder is also connected through the penis. So that means the reproductive system and the urinary system, they have a common opening to the outside through this organ, which is known as the penis. So this is all you need to know about the human male reproductive system. Please remember, this diagram is extremely important. You may be asked to draw it, you may be asked to label it. So practice it well, right? Now let us talk about the human female reproductive system. So this is the diagram of the human female reproductive system. In case of human females, the primary reproductive organs are the ovaries. So when I say the ovaries, we have a pair of ovaries, just like we have a pair of testes in the males. We have a pair of ovaries in the females. You can see an ovary on the left side, this is the ovary here, and an ovary on the right side, which is the ovary here. Now both these ovaries, they have a funnel-like structure above them. You can see this funnel-like structure over here and here, this and this. These are known as the oviducts or the fallopian tubes. Now, just like the testes perform two functions in case of males, the ovaries also perform two functions in case of females. So what are the functions? They produce the female sex hormone, that is the estrogen. Again, we talked about it in the chapter Control and Coordination. Plus, they produce the ova or the egg cells. Two functions to be performed by the ovaries. So, once the ovas are released, they enter into the oviduct or the fallopian tube, and from here they travel this way, this way, this way into this bag-like structure over here, which is known as the uterus. And the uterus opens to the outside through this part, which is known as the cervix, beyond which there is a tube-like structure which is known as the vagina. So this is the broad structure of the human female reproductive system. The diagram looks simple, but the working is complex. Now, you have heard about the menstrual cycle. What does it mean and how does it work or function? Look at this part of this diagram, this part, the grey part that you can see over here. This is a wall inside the uterus that is built up every 28 days and then it's shed off. So the day the egg is released from the ovary, that is the middle of the cycle, before that the ovary has to prepare itself, sorry, not the ovary, the uterus has to prepare itself to receive the fertilized egg. So the inner lining of the uterus, it starts thickening with a rich supply of blood, and that makes it soft, spongy and rich in blood. On the 14th day of the cycle, the ova is released from the ovary. One ova released every 28 days alternately. That means one month this ovary will release the ova, the second month this ovary will release the ova. So that ova, it comes in the fallopian tube. In the fallopian tube, the ova or the ovum stays for around 3 to 4 days, waiting to meet a sperm. If the sperm comes, it gets fertilized, and if it's fertilized, it comes here and attaches itself to the wall of the uterus and starts developing as a baby. We say the female is pregnant. This happens if the egg cell gets fertilized. So if the egg cell gets fertilized, the female gets pregnant and the menstrual cycle stops till the time the female is pregnant, and after the birth of the baby, the cycle would restart. But if the egg does not get fertilized, then what? Then this inner lining of the uterus, this and this, along with the egg that was released, it starts breaking down and it comes out through the cervix and the vagina in the form of bleeding, which is known as menstrual flow. So how do we mark the days of the cycle? So day 1 is the day when the menstrual flow begins. On the 14th day of the cycle, approximately, the ovulation occurs. And the approximate length of the cycle is 28 days on an average, though it may vary from individual to individual. So there may be people who have a cycle of 30 days and there may be people who have a cycle of 26 days. On an average, it is 28 days for a normal human adult female. So this is about the human female reproductive system. What happens if the egg get fertilized and what happens if the egg does not get fertilized, and what is the menstrual cycle. Now, when we talk about the menstrual cycle, the cycle doesn't start from birth. It starts when the production of sex hormones in the body begins, that is around the age of 11 to 13 years. So the beginning of the menstrual cycle in human females is known as mean arc. We'll come back to that slide later. And this cycle doesn't continue lifelong. It comes to an end around 50 years of age in most of the females. Again, it's variable, 45 to 55, that is the general period. So at that time, when the menstrual cycle comes to a stop, it's known as menopause. We'll talk about that slightly later. A few more important terms here. If the egg gets fertilized and it attaches itself to the wall of the uterus, we call it implantation, the embedding of the embryo in the thick lining of the uterus. If the female gets pregnant, so the time of fertilization till the time of the birth of the baby is known as gestation period. So the time period from fertilization up to the birth of the baby, which is approximately 9 months in case of human female, is known as gestation. And the release of ovum from the ovary on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle is known as ovulation. Now, if the female gets pregnant, then what happens? The baby and the wall of the uterus, they have to connect because the baby needs oxygen, the baby needs food, the baby needs to get rid of the waste that is being produced in its own body, the baby needs to get rid of the carbon dioxide that is being produced in its body. For that, it has to use its mother's blood. So a disc-like tissue develops between the developing baby and the wall of the uterus, and on the side of the fetus or the developing baby, finger-like projections are there which are known as villi. You can see these villi here, which are embedded in the wall of the uterus like this. So that helps in increasing the surface area for the exchange. So you can see this structure here, like this part. You can see this. So these are the villi on the fetal side and the disc-like tissue on the mother's side, and through this all the exchange happens. Carbon dioxide, oxygen, food, waste, everything gets exchanged through this, and it is connected through the umbilical cord to the baby. So this is known as the placenta. This is a very, very important issue. So this question is again very important. What is placenta and what is its role? How does it help? So this is all about the placenta that we need to know. Then we were talking about menarche and menopause. So menarche is the beginning of the menstrual cycle on reaching puberty. Generally occurs 12 to 13 years of age. Menopause, stopping of menstrual cycle at around 50 years in human females. So this was all you need to know and understand about the human reproductive system. In the next video, we will be talking in general about some more topics that are related to us regarding the reproduction process in humans.